The Geek Girl Riot. Geek Girl Riot.
It's Geek Girl Riot time, and you're here with Sherin and
Julian.
And tonight, we've got a fun show, but before that, I just want to say Julian is on his way to San Diego Comic-Con.
That's true.
Tomorrow, but that's still, I feel like it's still on your way. You're getting ready, getting packed, stuff like that. And in the meantime, on Geek Girl Riot, Julian and I are going to talk about, well, we're going to have an interview with Jee Young Han from UnPrisoned Season 1 and 2, but this is specifically about Season 2. And then we're going to write something up on RIOTUS.com. But before that, we're taking you back with a flashback of what Julian and I discussed for UnPrisoned Season 1, which is pretty much setting you up for everything. And there'll be more on that soon. In the first segment, we're talking Batman Caped Crusader, which you can watch on August 4th. And then in the middle, which is where he belongs, stuck in the middle with you, is Deadpool and Wolverine, which is pretty much the way this night is going to go. So are you ready?
Yeah.
Okay, good. I'm ready too. Kind of. So Batman Caped Crusader, I know you hate setting things up, but I feel like this is one you really want to.
Well, I never really want to, but to set up this show, Batman Caped Crusader is a new animated series spearheaded by Bruce Timm, Matt Reeves, Ed Brubaker, and James Tucker. That is
And J.J. Abrams.
And J.J. Abrams, appearing on Prime Video. Going for a more, I shouldn't say back to basics, but back to a beginning, and not so much. Even though the Batman in this is, say, a younger Batman, is more representational of going back to the actual Golden Age style or Golden Age era Batman, not only in look and design, but also time frame and thematics of using stuff from film noir, crime stories, stuff like that as, I guess, a reinvent. I wouldn't want to say a redo, but what if they were making Batman the animated series now versus 30 years ago, and this time with no children's TV censors?
True. And I feel like it's set in the 40s era. Is that right?
Well, Batman started in 1939, so it would be 39 to about 1940, 41, yeah, that very early 40s period.
It has that kind of prohibition. Well, prohibition's earlier, but you know what I mean. It has that kind of vibe to it, and it has that look, definitely. But I think there's something that you said, because you watched it sooner than I did, and I kind of felt the same way, which Matt Reeves has this thing where he's like, y'all talking too much shit about Batman. Like, literally, he's like, the trash about Batman has to stop. And what he's doing is going back along with some of his friends like Bruce Timm and writers like Ed Brubaker and Greg Rucka. Greg Rucka wrote an episode, but going back and saying this is the core of who this hero is, but not just who the hero is, but the trajectory that he takes to becoming a hero and the ups and downs with that. He's not the guy you think he is. He's not an agent for law enforcement. And he may have started as a vigilante, but he becomes more. I feel like all of that language is embedded in this series as well.
Well, yeah. I do think them making a show, some of the people involved, it feels like they've read some of these hot takes of people in regards to Batman, but not knowing the actual origins of Batman. They know the quote unquote origin because they've seen it through more modern movies and animated series. But you'd be hard pressed to ask many comic book fans themselves if they've actually gone back and read Golden Age Batman before Robin, like the things before Dick Grayson appeared and before the Joker appeared in the comic. It's a different tone. Sometimes they go back to that in the comics as well through different creators and through the artistic design senses of Bruce Timm and James Tucker, who, as you know, Bruce Timm helped start or helped create Batman the Animated Series, and James Tucker was one of the designers on that, plus many other shows, along with making Batman the Brave and the Bold animated series. They're able to like really craft this take of that design of Batman with the wider ears, the gloves,
the golden belt.
Yeah, the belt, all those type of things, a different type of cape, and really set that tone of from films and stories and like radio serials of that time. But with Batman, along with having some of the more polished or better writers of modern Batman stories, like a Greg Rucka and Ed Brubaker. I think Ed Brubaker is the actual writing showrunner. And you can tell if you like his stuff.
Yeah, you see Brubaker's touch all over this. You really, but you see a little bit of all of them if you know their work. You can see where everybody had their hands.
Yeah, I really like it, like the show overall. It's my wheelhouse. I'm a big proponent of liking all of Batman. I like reading parts of all of it, all of the history.
The really great thing that I loved about this series is that they really rework, redesign, and take another look at these characters, because I feel like these characters have had so many takes. You know, they really work hard to give us a different side of them. You know, of course, Commissioner Gordon is now, well, he's not, you know, Commissioner Gordon is Commissioner Gordon here. He's not, he's now Black. We've got a Black, red-haired Barbara Gordon. I love my Black red-haired people. And we've got a Black, red-haired Barbara Gordon, who is also a defense attorney, which is a nice twist here, right?
Yeah. That's a really different take from the way we usually see Barbara Gordon.
Very different. We've got, well, not a complete redesign on Alfred, kind of like a kind of like an amalgamation of a couple of different Alfreds from the past, but definitely not the one we're used to seeing in Bruce Timm's work. High among my list is what we see with Harley Quinn. They don't go with the Connor and Palmiotti version, which is the one that most people have become most accustomed to because of Margot Robbie, because of the two Suicide Squad movies. So we're seeing a very much more psychological take on Harley Quinn, voiced by Jamie Chung, which I really appreciated a lot. Crystal Joy Brown is Barbara Gordon. What were the redesigns that you loved, Julian?
Harley's was nice because it was a different type of Harley Quinn design from playing cards that they used versus the way in which Bruce Timm designed her the first time all those years ago with the red and black version. There's some characters I don't want to spoil.
Okay, let's go with who we've seen in the trailers.
I like Batman, like the Batman, because I like Batman with the gloves. They're not, I don't think they're purple. I know there's a bright purple as what usually you see Golden Age Batman with, but I still like seeing Batman with not the gauntlet style gloves with the little dark fins on the side, but just like regular gloves.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I think we can talk about, go ahead.
Selena Kyle having her more Golden Age, or have her actual Golden Age outfit of the green dress.
Yeah, that was cool to see. And have her be very slinky and a lot more treacherous, We've seen her a little bit more kind of like siren style, so it's nice to see this version.
Yeah, the feel of really going back to that those earlier interpretations of the characters versus what they shifted to over the past 80 years of stories and takes. It's almost make the first versions feel like a breath of fresh air.
It really does. And I have to say, we can speak about Renee Montoya because she is listed on IMDb and she's played by Michelle C. Bonilla. And So one of the things that you and I noticed was they don't stick with one body type for the women. The women have a full range of body types, from pear shapes to, you know, more square shapes to hourglass shapes. And that's really amazing to see, especially in a series that's primarily created by men.
Yeah, it was a lot of thought and gone into the diversity of silhouettes and how characters look. And even in certain faces, like within the different cops, like Harvey Bullock is in the show, and he looks familiar but different. And also some characters from like year one that you wouldn't just expect to see, or because they don't usually pop up in animated series and no less.
That's true.
So yeah, the lighting, they do a lot of nice things with lighting in the show to really capture the way people and things were lit in old black and white films. Really trying to capture some of the shot angles and the composition on the frame. I hope this gets released on physical so I can buy it as a person that doesn't trust streaming media to keep things on. I hope that I get a chance to buy this.
It would be nice. Matter of fact, you know, if Warner Brothers would just send us the set, you know, we would like that. We got to do a lot of voting on stuff like this at the end of the year. So, but Hamish Linklater is the voice of this particular version of Batman. Probably like, I don't know, like first, not a year one or a year two, but a little bit later than that. And we have to say that a question that you guys are probably wondering is, does he do Kevin Conroy proud? And he really does. The voice feels, I think you said this, it feels familiar, but it is its own voice. It's a younger Batman. It's a little bit of a different personality. He's a little more cavalier with people's feelings than he will become later. And Hamish Linklater plays this perfectly. And we should also shout out Christina Ricci as Catwoman, because it's working for her.
Yeah, she did a good job with Selena Kyle. I don't think I've heard of bad Selena Kyle in animation yet.
Well, it's a fun role to play. And I also want to say Bumper Robinson as Lucius Fox. You know, like you said, there's a lot of characters that you don't know if you're going to see. There is a James Bond homage that is not James Bond, but is an homage to another character, where these two characters from a James Bond movie and from the DC world, especially the world of magic, intersect. And that was really cool for me to see personally, because that character, the actor who played him, is so important to me. I'm just going to say the actor is Jeffrey Holder. You guys may know when you see it, you may not, but Julian and I will come back and tell you later. Anything you want to wrap up with on this?
Oh, no, I just hope that DC is having a very successful moment in the animated series, which maybe not, you know, blowing everybody's wigs, but they've been very consistent, first with My Adventures with Superman on Cartoon Network, and now with a new Batman show on Prime Video. Or earlier, I should say Adult Swim and Max instead of Cartoon Network. Oh, my bad. But yeah, Batman the Cape Crusader.
August 4th?
Real gangster, real game changer.
Yeah, it reminded me a little bit of like Dick Tracy in some ways. You know, it had some of those elements there with the crime element. And I have to say that once you start it, well, first, before I say that, I really hope that our writers look out for the quiet moments, because there's a lot of love for the big bombastic chest pumping animated series out there, which is, I got no problem with it. Don't get bunched up. But there's so much really strong, quiet writing and character development in this Batman that you might miss if you're looking for the more explosive stuff. So I hope that you really pay attention to this. This is a Batman that keeps you watching episode after episode. You're like, what is going to happen now? Some characters that you know are going to make a wrong turn, you wonder how. Some relationships that are going to come together, you wonder, okay, where are we going to see these happen? And so this is a Batman that keeps you watching, but also a man that we know will eventually be a great hero.
Okay, yeah.
So we got a little bit of time in this segment. So why don't you, in these about 4 minutes or so, tell us what you're looking forward to at Comic-Con, things that you're going to get into while you're there?
Walk around so my feet hurt.
Which sneakers will you be wearing?
My Air Jordan 11 low Space Jams. Haven't worn those yet. They just came out earlier this year.
Nice.
I'm hoping that last weekend, the weekend that just passed was Evo, the big fighting game tournament, and Nike and Namco had a collaboration for Tekken in which they made some foam positive ones for Kazuya. So it has that foam positive feeling, but with purple snake skin like Kazuya Mishima's coat. And since they did a surprise drop at Evo, I'm hoping that they might do it again at Comic-Con and I have a chance to get my hands on these Kazuya foam posits, these Kazuya foams, these Tekken foams. I'm going to try to look out some panels, probably none of the big ones that people care about the most, because I don't like being in Hall H. I plan to be in at least the big comic book ones that are usually like in the room 6A, B, or C, D, or DE, or whatever. Those ones I'm more interested in. Looking at hopefully some good boots, some interesting toys and art, and enjoying running into people. That's the goal.
That's the goal. Okay, so I've got a little bit of time here. So one thing, because you're also thinking about hanging out with Crunchyroll a little bit. And of course, we love Crunchyroll because we love anime. And one of the things that I am big into that I've never gotten to talk with you guys about on the show, at least I don't think I have, is my love for the Apothecary Diaries. I don't care whether you read the light novels, whether you read the manga, or whether you watch the anime. Matter of fact, I think you should do all of it because they all have a little bit of a different take on the series. But as Julian knows, I don't typically do shoujo. I am a shonen girl and, some of the older stuff. But I'm not really typically a shoujo girl, but this is one of my favorite series of all time. I hope it gets adapted in every country possible. It is about Mao Mao, who is the daughter of an apothecary. She's well trained in the arts. She's a teenager. She lives in a country that is very close to Imperial China, and she lives in pretty much in the pleasure district that surrounds the palace. She gets kidnapped. She ends up working in the rear palace, which is where all of the consorts live. So she gets wrapped up in the intrigue of the court. And because of her special skills, she begins to solve mysteries, more or less medical mysteries or scientific mysteries that involve chemistry, chemical reactions, poisonings, and healing people, and also a lot to do with psychology because she grew up in a brothel. So she understands the psychology of human beings. And as we get into it, there is a eunuch who runs the rear palace. His name is Jinshi. He's one of the most beautiful people. For you K-pop people out there, just imagine Felix, but with purple hair, and you've got Jinshi. And he's gorgeous, but he's hiding a bunch of secrets. And they begin to kind of dance around each other, and love begins to bloom while they're solving all of these mysteries and learning about the past. And they have some really tricky, convoluted past. But this story just appeals to me so much. I am rewatching it now. I'm reading it while I'm rewatching it because it is my kind of characterization, my kind of world. There's no magic, but just all the science. If you know me, you know I love it. And so this is Sherin and Julian for segment 1 of Geek Girl Riot, but we've got 2 segments left, so stay with us. You're back on Geek Girl Riot with Sherin and
Julian.
And okay, so last night we went out and watched Deadpool and Wolverine basically synchronized with the entire critical world. Like all the journalists and all of the folks who cover film watched it together. And that was the way that Marvel designed it so that they could make sure that nobody got the jump on the spoilers or anything like that. And I will set this one up since Julian has already done Batman Cape Crusader. By the way, both of our reviews are up. When it's a really big film, sometimes we'll both review it, or sometimes I'll write an essay while Julian writes a review. And that's a good reason for you guys to visit RIOT-US.com. That's RIOTUS.com. That's the new home for everything that we do. Well, not everything, but that is the new hub for what we do as pop culture pundits is what I like to call it. So that's all there. Anyway, you can read those reviews. They're good ones. I really just misbehaved with my cracking jokes and stuff. So have fun with that. Anyway, Deadpool and Wolverine, we're sure that you've seen the trailers. You know that the team up that so many people wanted, the antagonistic relationship between Deadpool and Wolverine that kind of mimics the relationship between Deadpool and Spider-Man in the comics, has now come to the screen. And it is, I don't even know what to call it. It is just madness. It is a big old ball of not pop culture. It is a big old ball of like fan service and Marvel in-jokes. And honestly, as much madness as it is and how over the top it gets in certain places, I can't wait to see it again. The story, we can't really say much to you about the story. And the reason for that is almost everything in this movie is a spoiler, from the unrelenting cameos to how they deal with the TVA, which we know you guys have seen in the trailers. It's just so much is a spoiler. But basically, Deadpool wants to prove that he matters. He wants to prove that he has a purpose in the universe. He and Vanessa have broken up, and he needs her to know his life has meaning. So, in his quest to make this happen, he realizes that his friends mean the most to him in all the world, and that when he is surrounded by those people, life is good. Of course, the minute he has that realization, the ambiguous bad guys show up, and and they ruin the whole thing. You know, I jokingly said in my review, some MFs are always trying to ice skate uphill. That's the ambiguous bad guys here. There's more than one bad guy here, by the way, which works really well because Deadpool and the team behind it is very good at not doing that Marvel thing of justifying the villains to the point where the audience thinks, oh, they're right. They don't do that. They keep their villains villainy, and I like that. Anyway, so because of the ambiguous bad guys, which you guys have a hint of who they are, Deadpool ends up needing to find himself a Wolverine to help him save a lot of stuff that I can't tell you, or at least to make the attempt at saving a lot of stuff. So what ends up happening is Deadpool and Wolverine are running around just creating absolute havoc. I said that if they were making sacrifices to a god of blood and chaos, they would be the favorites. Like, they'd be the acolytes, they'd be the high priest. And that pretty much sums up how it starts. In the words of my nephew, Lennox, how did I do?
I think you did quite well. You know, I personally have no problem with explaining the setup a little bit more, because it was only, you know, sans the action sequence, like 12 minutes of the movie. And the rest of the movies were like all the actual crazy. The setup is actually quite simple. Everything else is when it gets all spoilery.
That's true. I mean, they do know the TVA is involved because that's in the trailer.
Yeah, you know, that's Loki-ness. It's like this movie is almost a sequel to Loki. It
is very connected to Loki. Like, I was actually surprised how, but you know, you can see the things that Ryan Reynolds loves. And
don't forget our hated and not love Zeb Wells. He's involved.
Yes, Zeb Wells is involved. But I thought
Sean
Zeb
Levy
Wells
too out here.
Sean Levy, the yeah, 21 Labs. Yeah.
And the what's my guy? Free Guy. That was my movie.
I love Free Guy so much. I don't think, and I realized that we never did a Free Guy segment because I was going to play that tonight, but we never did a Free Guy segment, and I think we need to fix that because we loved that movie. It was great. Also unrelenting cameos, but not quite on the level of Deadpool and Wolverine. But yeah, Sean Levy's really doing some great stuff. You guys will know him from Stranger Things, but you will also know him from Arrival. And he's been working with Ryan Reynolds a lot. They have a Netflix film together. So it's nice to see him have as much fun. I think what really got to me about Deadpool and Wolverine is that I looked at Hugh Jackman's face and I'm like, this man is having the time of his life.
Yes, they're having having fun. I in my review I said, Ryan Reynolds and Hugh Jackman, they don't have to try at this anymore. They just glide into their roles. They're like the '96 Bulls beating the Seattle Supersonics for the championship. Like they don't even have to try. They just know how to be excellent as Deadpool and Wolverine. It's second nature to them. And they're just having fun with each other, playing these characters that they're basically iconically, like, I don't know who else could play Deadpool. And honestly, I don't know who else could play Wolverine. I don't, at this, it's 24 years. I don't know. See anybody else.
But we do see a joke that is a lot of fan service about who could, which I thought was a cute joke because that person looked good. Which
I didn't know was the thing until I was in the movie. I was like, oh, this is a thing? And our friend William was like, yeah, it is. I was like, oh,
a thing. Yeah.
Oh.
So what I said was the pairing of Reynolds and Jackman is more than a co-headliner. It's two katanas, a pair of claws, and two big bloody chest muscles pumping pure diesel. And I'm not talking about Hugh's pecs. There are times when you're laughing so hard from the steady infusion of nonsensical nonsense coming at you like a malfunctioning batting cage that you could go into cardiac arrest. Like, this movie is wild. It is the Pandora's box of comedy. Everything in the MCU, everything in so much of what we know about X-Men, all of that is flooding out. And what I do want to say, and I won't spoil, is that everything that Fox denied us, from the true Wolverine, from the yellow and blue costume, to some other beats that fans that know the comics really wanted, this movie goes in and gives us almost all of them. And pretty much all of them. All the things we've been wanting. This movie's like, let us give that to you. Let us show you the Wolverine you've been looking for. And I really appreciated that, Julian.
Yeah, I think they worked it well to the story about the differences between. For me, a lot of the movie started to gel in my head as almost like a trip for, like, Ryan Reynolds accompanying Kevin Feige through his career. In a lot of ways, that movie is about, as much as it's about Hugh Jackman is Wolverine, it's also about Kevin Feige because he's the person who helped pick Hugh Jackman, and his career started working on X-Men. That came out in 2000, and look at where he is now, the most successful producer, creating the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Yes.
It's not a bookend, but it's like, okay, as we go into the next chapter, and we're finally interjecting these things into one thing. Like, let's go back to where I started with, and it's Wolverine and the X-Men. You know, as much as people don't like the concept as Wolverine as the X-Men, it's like, I'm sorry, but if you go back 24 years ago, there was no more popular X person in all of the comics in Marvel. He was, at the time, the most popular Marvel character besides Spider-Man. So it's just like, it is what it is. Like, that's where we were at. And I think this movie does a good job with that through the lens of Ryan Reynolds and how perfectly he encapsulates Deadpool, and also some of his own history.
There's a lot of his history and what he loves there too. Yeah, and they do in some ways go back a little bit before Feige to another person that kind of set all of this up, but it's not as obvious or as much stated as it is with Feige, and we'll let them figure it out when they figure that part out. There is a lot of love of the MCU, but also of Marvel Comics in this movie. And it feels like it's important to everybody. And that's, to me, what makes it work. because this is a movie you can enjoy if you've never read a comic in your life. But if you have,
it's a way different movie.
oh my gosh, there's so much extra sauce on this movie when you have it. And at whatever level of comic book fan you're at, there's so much extra sauce. But the main villain, and everybody knows this already, is Emma, I think it's Corrin, who is playing Cassandra Nova. Yeah. Oh my gosh. I don't know who picked her, but they knew what they were doing. She is diabolical.
Well, I like her portrayal of Cassandra Nova. I think for me, Cassandra Nova was the weak point. Because she's good as a bad guy, but I don't know why she's a bad guy.
Yeah.
As a person that does know why she's a bad guy, it's very interesting. I don't know how that's going to work well with I don't even want to call them normies, but people who are Marvel movie fandom versus like decades of reading Marvel fan. That was interesting. I personally liked the TVA.
It was great
how they incorporate, and the person that leads that, which I think they kind of have already showed, or even
they've shown him. He's in the photos and he's in the trailer. I don't know if they've named him though. Should we name him? That's what I don't know.
I don't know, but yeah, he's British, so he works very, very well in what he does is in the film, and how he plays off of our heroes in the world. So I kind of hopefully we see more of him. It is interesting the way that character is technically in a way connected to Owen Wilson character.
Yeah,
in the comics, but I don't know if as much in the movies.
They allude to it in the movie, but they don't make it plain. Again, you kind of have to infer and draw your own connections, but it's there if you know. But that's it. So much of this movie, as I said, you can really enjoy this movie without anything, but this is also an if you know kind of movie. And it kind of just gets more levels of depth when you do know more stuff about it. Now it is not by any means, our colleague William Goodwin said something about you guys need to stop creaming your shorts about it. It's not the second coming of the Marvel universe. But and it's not a perfect movie. It's a little bit too bombastic, but what it is such a hyper enjoyable movie. Like, despite the fact that it is egregiously bloody, like, please, if you got kids, don't take them, like little kids. Like, don't take little kids to this. This is not.
They're going. I already got friends who already bought tickets for it. It's over. It's a wrap.
Oh, it's not for them.
No, it's not. It never was.
Never was. Even Ryan Reynolds has said that. By the way, one thing I wanted to say is that I want to say again that Ryan Reynolds is a marketing genius. And as a former CMO, I got to tell y'all, Chief Marketing Officer, I got to tell y'all, Ryan Reynolds' gift for marketing, the way that he understands the audience and what the audience wants is so top tier that I frequently study the campaigns that he does for his businesses. But you can see it in what they've done, the team ups, from the controllers to the popcorn buckets. So much of that is coming from that team and how brilliant they are at making those connections to the audiences.
Yeah, and I like the fact that Feige, in a way, well, not even in a way, takes a back seat to that. Like,
yes.
Ryan Reynolds is a success at what he knows what to do, especially with this character. I'm gonna hang back. I'm gonna let him take the lead, and
he's gonna let him cook.
He knows what he's doing when it comes to this Wade Wilson guy.
He really does, and so much else. I mean, there's a reason he's such a successful business person. But Kevin Feige also made sure that his name, a Kevin Feige production, was huge on that screen. It was like...
Right. And we back. What I also want to say is that the film has color. It is bright. It's not flat gray. Like some Marvel movies tend to be flat. There are this movie has by far the best fight choreography in any Marvel Studios proper film.
That
do more than
opening fight that you allude to,
Shang-Chi. Yeah.
I'm gonna call it the Bone Daddy fight. That thing is because it's also woven in with the opening credits. So the vision to kind of to orchestrate all of that, to choreograph all of that, and still make it, as you said, some of the best fight choreography in the MCU. Applause.
Each of the fights, your set pieces is great. A lot of the action and the angles and the CG looks good. Look at when they give people time. They take time to cook and actually get it done. It looks good. I do think what I do like about it is that there's times at which the shots are made to look like Deadpool and Wolverine comics in terms of the action and the placement of the characters on the screen and in the fights,
the poses
they do, the little jokes,
the backdrops. Like we see some iconic scenes from the comics play out in this movie.
Yeah, it was. I think it's something as I go through scanning some of the reviews that there's things that people are missing because they don't understand or they don't get those details, and the devil's in the details. And sometimes I like to I'll be the devil because I'm seeing them.
We might as well call them out, but that's why people come to us. That's what we do, right? Like we have that. There's a lot of other people who do it too, but we do have that particular skill. But when you said that, the first thing that dropped in my mind was they not like us. I'm not gonna sing it. Don't worry. But that was the first thing I thought of. But yeah, there's so much that's being missed. So we've got about 2 minutes. Is there anything that you really want or you really want to talk to people about once they see it without spoiling it?
Oh, no. I just want everybody to stop looking at any commercial or trailer. Stay away from it. Just
stay away.
Get your 2 days and go to because they've already showed too much.
Yeah.
There was the last trailer. Yeah, the last trailer I didn't watch it. I even heard stuff I didn't want to know. It should have been more of a surprise.
Then they told us about X-23, Laura. I didn't want to know that.
Yeah, and the only reason I knew about because people talked about it because I didn't watch it.
Yeah.
But yeah, just go see the movie.
Never reveal the double lightsaber. That's what that. Ever since that happened, people have been putting too much in trailers. Don't do that. I agree. Don't go on Reddit. Don't watch the trailers. Don't listen to anybody other than us. Finish this episode and then don't listen to anybody because it is so much better when you go into that theater and you know next to nothing and you can just let everything happen. And there's things, they give you clues to what's about to happen. And if you catch the clue, you're like, oh no, they're not about to. And then they do. They do. Every time you're like, are they really about to? And then they do. Unlike the way we've been trolled by Feige in the past, Ralph Boner, I will never forgive him. I will never forgive him. So unlike that, this is a really strong movie. As we said, go to RIOTUS.com. That's riot-us.com to read our reviews. This episode will also be available for you to listen to again, streaming whenever you actually see the movie. This is Sherin and Julian.
And folks, don't forget to subscribe to the page so you get our posts in your emails.
Do that, and we'll be back. So I'm going to speed talk you through this last segment because up next we have Jee Young Han from UnPrisoned Season 1 and 2. She plays SD. I always want to say Edsy, but it's SD, and she's amazing. We have the just most girlfriendy conversation ever. Julian, you might remember UnPrisoned starring Kerry Washington and Delroy Lindo, which is streaming seasons 1 and 2 on Hulu right now because we talked about it last season and got really in depth. So we're going to play that for you guys right after my interview with Jee Young Han and then check RIOTUS for more about it.
It's glowing.
Oh, thank you.
You look like the heavens opened up and just gave you the perfect filter of light, happiness. It's beautiful.
Okay, so it's half, my halo light and half Whitney Houston sweat.
No, you tell your secrets back. But I know the sweat thing. I think someone once said, "Oh my goodness, you're glowing." I was like, "I'm sweating." What it is? I wish I could tell you what to get at Sephora, but no, it's a good old fashioned
Perspiration. Well, let me intro because we started talking first. It's Sherin, and I'm here with Jee Young Han for UnPrisoned Season 2. Hi, Jee. So we started with our conversation, so let's just keep it going. I have got to say, SD's wardrobe, like the styling on SD this season,
she's a vibe, right?
yes. Christmas Eve, the purple pants.
Oh yeah, I love it. It was kind of giving me a little bit like I've got an event to go to, but I'm also the Joker. I love that.
Yeah, the shoulders, the strap.
Yes, it's bold. We had a changeover of our costume designer. Ceci joined us. Ceci is the veteran. She's done this forever. She's your sister, dear white people, and this
world.
Yeah. She knows what she's doing, and she really wanted to dial it up with SD. And what was so funny this season was every time she put an outfit together, I was like, what? I was like, wait, what? And it was a little scary. I was like, why would she wear that? Where is she going?
Tutu. But I did realize, like, when I go through life and I see people wearing some really incredible outfits, they don't need to be going anywhere. They just love it. They're wearing it because they feel good. They think it looks great, and you don't question it. I think you see that with some of the best outfits all the time. It just they're vibing. They look great, and it's like they don't need a reason. It's just it looks great, and I love that it was a little scary this season. That's very cool. Okay, so UnPrisoned is really about familial relationships. What are the keys to Paige and SD's sisterhood?
The keys to our sisterhood. One, I think something to learn, especially because they are foster sisters, is, family, and real family does not have to be by blood. I think that's a beautiful story, even though we're telling a story of her, her blood-related father coming back into her life. Family is can be open to interpretation. We don't always have the best relationships with our biological families, but we can have some of the best relationships with people that just are destined to be in your lives. So in our sisterhood, I think what is so beautiful is that they don't judge each other, and they treat each other with compassion, because Paige and Essie are both messy in their lives, and but they are always there for each other, and they're never judging, and they're honest with each other. And I think that's what's key in their sisterhood.
Yeah. And then kind of going off of what you said about SD being a foster kid, her big journey this season is about her identity as a foster kid, as a Korean American. Can you share how you hope that the audiences will connect with that?
I think there's going to be a lot of people really touched by this. Before this storyline, before I joined in as SC, I have many friends who are Asian and specifically Korean who were adopted. So this is a story we don't talk about a lot, but everyone, of course, is affected by this. You don't have to be Korean. There are many people who have been adopted. There are many foster children out there, and these stories are important. And so that, in terms of just telling that story, that's important, and I think it's beautiful. Another is her identity as an Asian person. I feel like even in my age, I'm constantly curious and struggling with how I feel as a Korean American, and that's a reflection on how we portrayed Korean or portrayed Asian people in media. The conversation is still ongoing, so I can't even imagine someone like SD who was not raised completely embracing her Korean identity the way I have, and still having that struggle as a full-grown adult. So I think a lot of people will get it. You don't have to be a foster kid. You can just be watching the story and taking a second and going, okay, I'm not saying everyone needs to have an identity crisis, but I think it affects people. They're going to know someone, and I think it's just going to really touch everyone.
I think so. And on that, doing a funny show that is so emotionally grounded is really hard work. I think harder than people probably guess. How do you and the rest of the cast shake it off when you're on set?
It depends. Everyone works very differently, and it depends on what we're doing. Some things are so much easier. I think that we keep it light. Everyone's really good about keeping it light on set and being there for each other on set. So whatever we have to do, we are always feeling like we could trust each other, which I think makes it easy. But at the end of the day, everyone is so funny. Like, everyone is so lighthearted that our jobs it's really easy to do that. It's if anything, I think we gotta take it a little more seriously sometimes, because I think we just have a blast. So work is not work when we're there.
Okay, I'm going to before my last question, and I'll be quick, I'm going to throw out my favorite quote with no context, no spoilers, no need for reaction. Crying was the goal. Do you know that one?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, I love that one. I just want people to have that for when they watch the season. Final question, Jee. If you could live in any fictional universe ever created, doesn't matter whether it's a book, a movie, a TV show, whatever it is, what would it be and why?
Oh, it would be in the wizarding world of Harry Potter. Magic. That's the answer. There's magic.
Okay, so
magic.
We all do. And which house and how long is your wand?
Okay, I would, on one hand, if this was Hogwarts, I would be a Gryffindor. I think I have the ego of a Gryffindor. How big is my wand? Maybe it's wide as my head, it's Phoenix Feather Cooperative. Big. But then, you know what? I have a feeling that maybe I'm not, I feel like the problem with the this is a tongue twister, wizarding world of Harry Potter is I don't necessarily know if I would be at Hogwarts. Would I be at Beauxbatons? Am I a French, ooh? Or I was I actually think we need to expand it. I want the Asian one. I want Korean wizards. I want that Korean wizards.
Yes.
That would be incredible.
Can we get a K-drama with Korean wizards? Because that would be my joy, right?
Did we just come up with the next big hit? It would be so good. It would be so good. It's like the kissing moment with all the magic. I was that's real magic. They did that. That's not a special thing. They did that.
But what kind of love spell? Now we got to find out if it's true love or
that is so good.
Okay, we got to fall on. Okay. Jee Young Han, thank you so much. UnPrisoned Season 2. Watch it right now.
All right, so Julian, I got to tell you about this new series coming to Hulu again this week. Everything is this week. It's everything is piling up in the best possible way. And that series is UnPrisoned. It's created by Tracy McMillan, who is a writer for television and novels and also a relationship expert. And it's produced by none other than the TV great Yvette Lee Bowser, who y'all will know from Living Single if you're paying attention, but also Run the World.
Okay. So what's it about?
So what is it about? You want me to get into it? All right. So UnPrisoned stars Kerry Washington and Delroy Lindo. And it is very much based on, did I say Terry McMillan or did I say Tracy McMillan? Because it's Tracy, not Terry. What did I say?
Oh, I didn't.
It's Tracy. Whoever I said, it's Tracy McMillan, okay? And it is based on Tracy McMillan's life with her father, who was super smooth, swaggy, kind of confidence man vibes, who was in and out of prison during a large chunk of her life. And that is, in effect, what this series is. Kerry Washington is in a role very much like Tracy, as she is reeling in her life from the effects of going from foster homes to her father's girlfriend's home, to all of this kind of upheaval in her life because her mother was never around. Her father is the one steady influence in her life, but he spent most of that time in jail. And now she's raising a son of her own. She is a relationship therapist and a TikTok. Well, I don't know if it's TikTok or Instagram. It might be Instagram influencer.
And her father gets out and he is determined to change his life, which means that hers is about to change too.
Cool. Okay,
Yes.
that sounds pretty interesting.
I found it to be deeply interesting. I mean, I really like this show. Like, I like it a lot. I ran right through all of the episodes and I was like, you mean this is it? There's nothing else? Like Hulu, what are you doing to me? Because this is done very differently from a lot of sitcoms that we've seen. It's a bit more of a dramedy. And each of the 8 episodes kind of takes us on a chapter of these people's journeys together. And the son is or grandson that we get to meet. He's great too. And he actually looks like Tracy McMillan's son in a kind of way. So that kind of really ties you in. His name is, he has a name. It looks like it's Valley Rakotovana. That, but again, we might not be pronouncing it right. And a really cool thing that they do is that they introduce the inner child of Paige. They call her Little Paige. Kerry Washington is Paige. And there's the inner child. And this inner child, played by Jordan McIntosh, does a lot of the speaking for Paige when she can't. The things that she just isn't comfortable saying. And as a therapist, Paige is comfortable saying a lot. But there's things that she's battling with internally that this little child comes in and says and deals with. And sometimes the two characters sit together because there's a moment where the things that the child went through, the woman is actually now starting to reconcile, which I thought was an ingenious take. Of course, Delroy Lindo remains at the top of his game. He's just so freaking charming. Like, you want to talk about Riz? Delroy Lindo's Riz stays high. Like it's just like high level, and the combination of those two characters, because Paige, played by Kerry Washington, is awkwardly bubbly and neurotic as she's working through years of resentment and disappointment, while Delroy Lindo's Edwin is magnetic and swaggy, kind of with the vibe of a grifter. And these two people bump heads. And what I said is that UnPrisoned is about relationships and helping each other to heal from the damage we've inflicted on each other. It is also about a woman breaking the shell that emotional neglect and abandonment has built around her. But the show approaches it with saucy comedy and sharp insights on how not normal we all are.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is definitely something I'll probably try to check it out, because you said it's on Hulu.
It's on Hulu this week. March 10th is another one and another one. It's a big weekend. The other thing about it is it speaks to how we relate with each other most when we are our most specifically unfiltered selves, right? That's what this show does. And I really appreciate the approach. I appreciate the cast so much. Paige has a sister named SD, played by Jee Young Han. And it's so cool to see this Black woman and her Korean sister being raised by Mormons and how that affects them. It's great to see the people that Paige has romantic entanglements with. For example, there's Mark Richardson, who plays a character named Mal. A lot of y'all will remember Mark Richardson from the show Dear White People. And he's just as good as ever.
It's good to see people from that show in other shows.
It really is. It really is. And one thing for you, Julian, is that in some of the music, I kept hearing Janet Jackson in my head. It's like, that sounds like What Have You Done For Me Lately? Or that sounds like I Get Lonely. Well, it turns out that the music supervisors are none other than Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis, because the location of the show is Minneapolis. So the good musical love.